Hello and welcome back to our final panel in Inside Track on cybersecurity. And on this panel, we're trying to look into hybrid working and rethinking the next business as usual, the next new normal. So joining me, I've got two experts in this field, and I've got Logicalis CEO Bob Bailkoski, and I've got Tietoevry's head of the cybersecurity business, Maria Nordgren. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So this is quite a broad topic, and me and my team wanted to introduce it because we do quite a bit of end-user research and how it informs procurement on the channel side. And we're hearing again and again that end users are coming at this, CIOs are coming at cybersecurity from the perspective of the fact that there's this new iteration of a new normal, this new iteration of hybrid working. And Maria, if I can come to you from your expertise in the Nordics especially, how would you describe the current status quo?
First of all, you said it's becoming a new normal. So the new normal is fluid. It's not an end state yet in any sense. It is the society is utilizing a lot of digital tools. And in fact, it's interesting that you're mentioning this end user research, because we have been doing a barometer for many years now, and it looks like the services, the critical services, the services from the authorities are very trusted, whereas there is a long way to go for companies to get their consumer digitalized services trustworthy, and that has to change. So one of the things that corporations very often do is that they create a service and then they sprinkle security on top, and that has to change. It has to be there from the beginning. So these are some of the things that are forming the new normal. One thing also, before I give the word to Bob, then is that we are in a war, and a war situation often causes casualties, and that is also in the cyber threat landscape changing a lot of dangers or the landscape as such.
Maria, I'll definitely pick up that particular issue up with you in a minute. But Bob, if I can go to you in your business, what would you say about the current status quo when it comes to cybersecurity and hybrid working in particular?
Yeah, of course, the landscape has changed a little bit as a consequence, in part, of the pandemic. We all experienced an increased number of cyber threats during the pandemic. You all read about those sorts of incidents, around the world. But kind of since the lockdowns have ended globally, we've got another big global incident that's caused an increase in cyber threats, and that's the war in Ukraine, which has led to a large increase in the number of cyber threats overall. And when you come at this from a flexible working point of view, you've got to make sure that end users are just as secure in the remote environment as they were previously in their office environment. And as Maria said a moment ago, the way that we think about this in Logicalis is you've got to weave security into the digital fabric of an organization. So from a Logicalis perspective, whenever we deploy a solution to our customers, it has to be secure at source. The whole solution has to be a secure solution. And organizations, when they think about this, have to get their heads around not sprinkling on security as an afterthought, but bringing in security considerations right at the beginning of any deployment or any transformation that they do, because inevitably, if there are gaps in that deployment, well, that equals vulnerabilities from a cyber perspective.
Both of you mentioned threats as a result of the Russia-Ukraine war, and that they've proliferated and accelerated. Speak to some people who do procurement in the MOD, the Ministry of Defence here in the UK, and the Foreign Office, and they've seen an explosion in threats as well. Can I turn it around and ask whether the fact that there's been a lot of press about this increase in threats, has that actually also been a driver for business, this kind of growing awareness that, as you were saying, Maria, that there is this war that is also playing out in the cybersecurity space? And perhaps I can go to you first, Maria.
We have seen a trend which started already before the war, which is that the companies are more interested in business continuity than they were before. They've sort of realized that there will be threats, there will be attacks, and the thing is that we have to encounter a way to snap out of those attacks immediately, see that these attacks are ongoing. Before there could be an attacker in the environment in the enterprise for 120 days as an average, and now we have to realize immediately within hours that there is somebody. And then if something really bad happens, like ransomware, it shouldn't cause 800 shops to be closed for 2 weeks like it did in Sweden. It should be very restricted. You should be able to recover fast. And one of the things that we are in Tietoevry very often advising is to think about not if this IT solution goes down, but rather if I had to do something manually, like paying the salaries, how is that possible? Or if something doesn't work, if the logistics of bringing food to the houses doesn't work, how can I do that manually? So it has brought like advisory-led sales into the picture, very much risk-based. Risk-based approach in business continuity. You can't protect everything, so instead try to think about what is really important and try to save that, or if it can't be saved, somehow recover.
Okay. This is an event, obviously, that's focused on Europe. There's one issue that is affecting the market, but I want to talk to both of you as well about digital sovereignty, because our readers and our viewers for this event tend to like when we pick out the nuances between different EMEA markets. And so, again, if I can go to you first, Mira, before moving on to Bob, if you can give me an idea of just how important digital sovereignty is, in particular in the Nordics.
Exactly. I'm quite interested in this contradiction. The digital sovereignty is basically laws and regulations to that critical infrastructure and critical data can be touched only by citizens of that country in the Nordics. Well, data protection or cybersecurity controls are based on the fact that there are data lakes taking information from all over the world and trying to make the security good enough or best protection because they can utilize all that data. So it's a contradiction of terms. They want to reach better security through these regulations, but at the same time, they deny the most modern technologies utilizing the cloud.
And is that a frustration for you, Bob? Because obviously Logicalis, I believe, is present in a very large number of territories across the world. I mean, what's your view on this?
Yeah, I come at this from the perspective of being the CEO of a large IT solutions provider, an MSP and MSSP perspective. So we're in 27 countries around the world, Nima, and one of the issues that our clients face at the moment, amongst others, is the lack of qualified resources to help them manage their environments. You come at this from an MSP point of view. You think, okay, well, let's use the power from our perspective of 27 countries and deploy those resources across various IT environments. But then you've got to make sure that you respect the data sovereignty issues that Maria's talking about there. So our approach has been to create NOCs and SOCs that are within the territories that we operate in. So from an EMEA point of view, we've got 5 NOCs and SOCs in total covering the EMEA area. That means that from an EU perspective, we can respect the requirements of the GDPR regulations here from a data sovereignty point of view. Likewise, from an America's perspective, both Latin America and the USA, we've got NOx and SOx in both those territories too, that can make sure that we're compliant overall. What we don't do is we don't have any service provision that's outside of the trading territories that we operate in. And that's a very sort of conscious decision that we've made, in part to respect those data sovereignty issues that Maria raised earlier.
Okay. And then sticking with you, what else would you say, in your perspective as such a large global solution provider, is really shaping the channel cybersecurity market right now and also looking into next year?
Well, the risk landscape is kind of top of mind of most CISOs, of course, and therefore has an impact on the way that CEOs think about things. And that risk landscape has been increased from the threats that I mentioned earlier. You know, the pandemic rise in phishing attacks, the impact of the war in Ukraine and the increased cyber threats that are coming from that, as well as general fraudsters, you know, raising their game. So you've got to be, you know, on the front foot all the time. But when I think about it from a channel perspective and how the channel can help resolve many of these issues, I think we've got to be able to translate all of this threat information into meaningful discussions at the board level. That's where the investment decisions are going to be taken. You know, the gazillions of dollars that are lost every year through as a consequence of cyber threats almost becomes, you know, meaningless. It's so huge. How do you translate that into how that impacts my business? And it's also additionally hard for CISOs, because they've got to demonstrate a return on investment for something that they're actually preventing from occurring. You know, how do you prove the negative? But the channel can really help here by supporting with very, very clear communication and supporting CISOs when they're in front of their board to help them translate what can sometimes seem like obscure operating metrics into what I call like human speak for the board, you know, translating it to clear operating metrics that the board will understand in the context of their organizational environment overall. Even more than that, you know, I also believe that customers around the world are looking for partners that care about supporting the delivery of their business outcomes versus just simply delivering on SLAs. It's of no benefit to any customer around the world if you can tell them that their devices stayed available 99.999% of the time if we didn't also spot the vulnerabilities and threats in their environment and help sort of proactively manage this for those customers. So I think the channel should be really focused on those business outcome-based solutions and talk about helping our customers reduce risk and also take accountability alongside our customers to make it happen, because you can't treat cybersecurity anymore as a point solution. Back to Maria's beginning point here, it's got to address business challenges and threats in a way that's kind of integrated with the entire ecosystem of a client's technology environment. So the answer for me to, you know, promoting and selling cybersecurity in the channel is about educating customers on the value of that approach, and then of course, you know, delivering on it seamlessly.
Okay. Maria, we're sort of coming into the last 5 minutes of our discussion, but I wanted to pick up on this idea that, you know, both of you have mentioned cybersecurity being the cornerstone of digitalization of business moving forwards. You've spoken to me in the past about saying everybody has a role to play. Could you elaborate by what you mean in that sense for the channel? What do you mean by that?
Cybersecurity cannot be outsourced as such. It's a combination of people, technology, and processes. And I think I agree very much with Bob that the way to get a balanced cybersecurity solution is in a dialogue between the experts and the organization to do the risk-based analysis and risk mapping. So it's always a balance between innovation, which is usually fast and furious and works, and that everybody's passionate for that, and cybersecurity, which always often can be seen as putting the brakes on everything. But if you involve the people into that awareness, then I think the awareness will make them understand how dangerous it would be not to have security in it. And it has to be done in a smart way, because if you just say, okay, if if the robots work on Wi-Fi and somebody can hack those robots, then they just say yeah. But if you involve them so that they have to include security in the innovational work, then I think that's the only way forward. And a regulation is one way, but I don't believe in regulation only, although Finns very much believe in regulation. But I think this public-private partnership where the passionate, innovative people get maybe public help in creating these cyber secure, innovative solutions to bring the solutions forward, the technology forward. I think that is the only way to move forward.
Okay.
Nima, can I just add to that?
Please.
Just very briefly. Maria touched on a whole bunch of really important points there, but I also wanted to emphasize that it's not just about the technology angle here. Of course, technology is a big part of the answer to prevent an organization's vulnerabilities materializing into significant, actually, dollar outcomes. It's also, though, about governance. It's about policies and procedures. It's about training as well. It's about practice and simulations. To give a more comprehensive answer to the cybersecurity threat, you've got to focus on more than just the technology angle, which is a big part of the puzzle, but it's all these aspects that are sort of intangible around the edges that aren't necessarily technology focused. And Maria made a great point about that earlier.
Okay. Well, actually, you've been very helpful in rounding out the end of the panel in a very neat way. So thank you both. This is the reason that we had this panel to talk about really business issues and not just cybersecurity tech. In the last couple of minutes, is there anyone who would like a final word on perhaps where their business is headed with regards to cybersecurity in the next couple of years?
I wanted to add one of the things that is not where only Tietoevry business is heading, but where the whole enterprise world is heading. It changes the world of cybersecurity, so it's very exciting. But when you used to enter your workplace in the morning, you started by accessing your corporate network. Internet is the corporate network now. With this, all the tools are in the cloud. So we're going from firewalling your corporate network into identities, managing accesses, making sure the wrong person isn't there. So the whole industry is changing.
Thank you. And Bob, final word to you.
Yeah, I think one big trend that we're seeing at the moment, Nima, is organizational focus on what we call an organization's digital fabric. And what do we mean by that? I'm talking about the seamless integration, if you like, of an organization's technology ecosystem, which means the interoperation of cloud, security, connectivity, collaboration, all of that in the context of a hybrid world. Previously, organizations were happy with a bit of a kind of a mashup of solutions from collaboration to cloud to connectivity. And now we're seeing customers wanting visibility of their entire IT ecosystem performance across this digital fabric. And this is becoming more and more important because, you know, as I touched on earlier, and as Maria's mentioned, as any security expert will tell you, if there are gaps in your ecosystem, that equals vulnerability. So it's really important for organizations that this digital fabric concept is addressed. And we're having many more conversations with our customers about that exact topic.
Fantastic. And we'll draw to a close there. Thank you both for joining us, and thank you for answering all of these interesting questions for our viewers. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nima.
Thank you, Nima.
Thanks, Maria.